Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Moments of Consequence. I have with me Jake and Casey. We're back. We're back, fellas. Welcome.
We've never really been gone. We've just been playing lots of Warhammer Renaissance.
Yeah, too busy playing, so took a hiatus from the podcast, I guess.
I have work from home ended in the States. We beat COVID sometime this time last year, and just no more grace. You got to go to work all the time now, and yeah, I've been incredibly busy. I've played the least amount of Warhammer. I know you two cats have been playing it up. I've been watching your guys' posts. But I have not played as much. My gaming group has we scatter sometimes, and then we find our way back to each other. And this is one of those moments, fellas. This is one of those moments where we are going to have um, an epic gathering of Warhammer, and we are going to. We've already kind of teased it a little bit on the Facebook group, but we are about to have you two travel to the grand old state of Missouri to throw down some Warhammer with us, fellas. We're really excited for you guys to do that. That will be January 2 through 5, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we are doing in that for you guys. So excited to have you guys. What first off, you guys are expert travelers with your armies. Um, you guys feeling calm, cool, and collected about it? I know we talked about it before your trip to overseas, but in-state travel, feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I think bringing our armies to Denmark was, and dragging them around Europe after was probably more intense than bringing them to Missouri. And we both got like these, carrying cases that fit in your carry-on space, so it should be fine. You can only bring so much, and like certain pieces obviously won't fit. So I'm gonna have like a separate box where I'm gonna try and finagle it into just to like carry it on with some extra like, chariot and stuff like that, but should be fine.
It's definitely going to be easier than the overseas trip, so no, we're not too worried.
Very good. Very good. So you guys are going to be down here. You guys are flying in on the first. We are meeting up very early on the second, and then we will have 4 days of Warhammer. We're going to preview a little bit of what we're going to do. Um, we have a culminating 2 day event on the last 2 days, so this will be the fourth and the fifth, where we will play a Swissed out 5 games of competitive Warhammer. We are going to go as hard as we can with the most powerful combos that we can possibly muster. I've got a couple questions lined up for you guys about that. We are really excited. We will be using the 2024 rules. And then Casey or Jake, do you have either one of you have that pulled up real quick? Any particular rules that you think stand out or that are interesting that we want to talk about real quick?
Oh, you mean the tournament rules like that we set up? So basically this we modeled the tournament rules after what Balder set up when we came to Denmark to play in the Warhammer Renaissance World Championship. The only thing that's different is that this is a 2 day event. So we're gonna have two different uh types like points values for armies that we're gonna field. So day one is gonna be 1600 point lists, which is what we played in Denmark. So we're gonna have three battles of 1600 points on day one. And then for day two, it's going to be two battles of 2,500 point lists. And you can use a totally different list. Like you don't have to use the same army. You can change stuff around as much as you want. Um, so that's what we're doing for point values. And we're just going to do 5 rounds of Swiss. And it looks like we're going to have 6 people. So we're just going to have everyone play each other player and kind of randomize exactly how that happens. Um, the rules that are very much the same as what Balder had set up was no single model or regiment can exceed 25% of the total army points. So for 1600 points, you can't have anything that's bigger than 400 points. For the 2500, I guess it's what is that? 625 or something. Um, and then you can't have more then two of the same unit except rank and file infantry without missile weapons. So you can't have three units of Wood Elf archers, but you can have two units of archers. You could have three units of warriors or something because they don't have missile weapons. Um, Special characters are allowed because I think it just adds a little spice. And then no magic phase on the first turn. And that just kind of balances magic a little bit and helps make the games go a little bit faster too. Um, and then we're just going to do like predetermined tables with objectives. Like for day one, they'll all be the same. We're not going to switch them around. Then we'll switch them around for day two. We'll just kind of randomize who plays on what table. And the only additional rule we came up with is like if one of the players has already played on that table that day, then it turns into slanted deployment just to mix it up a little bit. But that's basically the tournament rules.
I love it. I love it. I think it's well thought out. I think it uses a lot of the competitive rule sets that Balder has laid out for us, and we've discussed at times. I mean, Magic is unbelievably strong in this edition, and I love that. And to me, it's one of the more interesting things that sets this game apart from other games and other systems of Warhammer is that the magic system is so strong, and shutting it off turn one for both players, I think, really helps to allow some development of the board if you are not a magic user. Or if you're trying to like play defense and not so much offense, it allows you that grace. Yeah, I would love to talk a little bit about some of the potential, like the items in the 2024 rule book. I think, talking about Magic, segueing in, I think, the thing I'm most excited for with this tournament is I'm excited to try out those 8 items that go with the colleges of Magic. There's a couple in particular that I have written down. Jake, I'll start with you. I would love your thoughts. I think the strongest one by far is the gold, the amulet of iron, where you can +2 -2 somebody's armor save, either a unit of your own. It's a bound spell, so it's an addition to your 2 or 1 or 2 spells that you would get from gold, which is not a bad lore in its own right. It's a bound spell. It's an 18-inch range. I just think it's really good. It's one of the items I'm really looking forward to trying to find. If I can fit it into a build, I think it's really good. Jake, what's one of your favorite of those 8?
Well, I haven't really used them much myself because I tend to play armies that don't use the colleges. But I would definitely say the White Cloak seems the most powerful. Just the ability to make a regiment so incredibly durable that it's just sort of a must-stop spell, and it's a 1 power spell. So to me, that's the best one of those items. I haven't actually seen the gold one used. It to me, it doesn't stand out as that. Like it makes sense that being a bound that's just on top of whatever you cast, and I think gold is a great lore. But the effect to me doesn't seem that game changing, but maybe you'll prove me wrong.
I like thought the gold item kind of sucked until Barrett, you just started talking about it. And I was like, oh, you could give your own troops +2 armor save, which say you already have a 5+ save on like some elf warriors or something like that, then it brings them down to a 3+ save. And like that idea that unlike the white cloak where you have to designate a spell to that, it's like an additional bound. I actually think I totally underrated the gold one. And I haven't actually played with it, so I want to test with it.
Oh,
But
How many points is it?
it's
25.
25.
Oh, okay. 25 for a bound item that you can just cast every turn is really good, even if the effect isn't that strong. I think that one might have changed. Like it might have been a little weaker before, so I might have not like updated my uh rating on it
It
accordingly.
was +1 -1 instead of +2 -2.
Okay, yeah.
And I think I had the same thing going where I kind of thought it was like too weak to begin with, but now, yeah, we just
Yeah,
haven't tested it. Sounds
I mean,
good.
if it's a bound that you can cast every time and it doesn't have a, it doesn't extinguish. I mean, that's just, I mean, the only thing it takes up a slot, but on a wizard, which is somewhat premium. But yeah, just getting to cast an extra spell is nice.
I think it is that one. I also had written down the excuse me, the light spell, the shimmering cloak spell that you guys talked about. That going out, it's very okay until it says that one little phrase and extends to the regiment of the bearer, and I'm like, no, now it's great. It went from meh to awesome. Another one too that I think is so cool in theory. It's like my favorite theoretical item, and I know it's probably not very good, but I really, really like the Wand of Resurrection. Like I am a Jade fanboy through and through,
Hmm.
and I hope it's good, but I can see where it wouldn't be. Like I'm just gonna ignore things and try to delete them or make them run to where that item doesn't come into play. But that's another one that I have written down that I think can be really, really strong.
Hmm.
Yeah. I've the ones that I've played with are the white cloak, which I think is very powerful, maybe even too powerful. And I'll come back around to that. But yeah, the Wand of Resurrection I think is really good. And I think it's just another thing to bolster Jade and make it this very different, interesting, and kind of like low powered, but like worth taking because it can potentially do so much little stuff. So like I've been taking like a lower level Jade mage with the Wand of Resurrection and kind of keeping it behind my lines and like bolstering units and casting spell, casting the odd spell here and there. Jade is a funky lore, but I think between the Wand of Resurrection and getting to keep all your spells that you draw, it's pretty cool. The other one that I've tested is the Purple Reaper, which is the amethyst one, which has some potential. It is like a little crazy to like throw a mage into that kind of combat role, especially me playing like Wood Elves and Empire where they're not Slann or anything or Chaos. So it's a little funky, but I've been experimenting with that a bit, and that may make an appearance in January as well.
Mm.
But one of the things Jake and I talked about with the college items is like one way to think about them is to potentially rebalance the lores a little bit. And one of the things we thought about with the white cloak, I love the white cloak, but I do think it might be a little too good. And light, I think, is already probably in the upper 50% of lores, if not in the top two or three. Um, so I kind of wonder about that. Whereas some of the other lores, like I think Bright could use some help, and what Celestial or something. Like I think those could use a little bit more help than the items give them to kind of get over the hump to be like a competitive lore. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on those, but I was just kind of we had talked about that a little bit.
Thinking about the bright lore, I really like what if you made the Doomfire ring? You brought it back down to its original point cost, but you had to take Bright to use it. You can't just like take a Doomfire ring and cast 2d6 fireballs, three times. You put it back down to like 30 points. All of a sudden Bright looks really good. Now, is that a band-aid over a problem with the lore? Maybe, but there's ways
I,
I from viewing it how you and Jake see it, that made me think of that.
I would like something a little more like clever though. Like it would be cool. I just got an idea of like what if it was like something like fireballs, you got two for one power.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah. Like
suddenly fireball becomes like a sweet spell.
it should
Whereas
be.
like as it is, it's like, yeah, it should be it should be. Or like they're plus one strength or like what I think the enhancing fireball, because like fireball, right, it's the classic spell of anything fire oriented, and it's sort of flexible, but like not really that good as it is. And I think if that would just be the perfect spell to pump up. Because right now the item pumps up the like defensive spell, which, you know, isn't really the theme of Bright.
Not at all. Not at all. Really offensive. And we're gonna buff the one defensive spell, the swords
Yeah,
and scimitars or whatever. But
yeah, yeah.
um okay, so if you're still listening with us, podcast YouTube enthusiasts. We have not finalized the first 2 days of our competition. We have not talked about exactly how we want to get some games in. We want to do some different things. We have tons of armies at our disposal. You know, 3 to 4,000 points of chaos, a whole lizardman army, about 4,000 points of lizardmen. So, like, if you have any ideas, listeners, and Casey and Jake and I will discuss these for just the next few moments. But if you have any ideas of what types of scenarios we could do on day one and day two, we are all ears for some cool suggestions. If the community at large has ideas, but yeah, I'm excited for those first 2 days. I think we're going to get in some unique games and be able to try out some of these things that we're talking about. So I think a couple of the other people who will be joining us from our gaming group. So you two are flying in. We have Dylan, who's been on the podcast. He vaporized an entire Chaos Knights of Nurgle with a Lord of the BSB. They had like a one-up armor save. They had the Banner of Toughness. They were like Toughness 5. Well, his Hellfire, his Hell Cannon, not Hell Cannon. I'm almost there. Hell Blaster. His Hell
Hellblaster.
Blaster. I'm almost there. I knew it was one of the Hells. Um, his Hell Blaster misfired, shot all its shots, and just deleted the unit, and I lost the game. I can't believe it. I put all my eggs in that basket and lost that game. Can't believe it. But he will be joining us. Kendall and Nick, Missouri Nick. There's two Nicks in our group that we talk about all the time. So anytime we say Nick, we have to be like, which one? But Nick Loria from our gaming group, and then Kendall, and that will round out the six of us. And we have my little brother who is an alternate in case like there's inclement weather during that week in time, and one of the guys can't get down. We have an alternate. So, do you have any cool ideas just off the top? I didn't prep you on this one. Do you have any cool ideas for day one and day two, fellas?
Definitely team battle. I mean, I love team battles because I think to me, it like reduces the kind of competitive feeling, and it's just fun to like have more people around the table, and it kind of creates like a sort of sense of shared experience with more than like when you play. It's a kind of an interesting thing about Warhammer, right? You're always playing with your opponent, like that's the only person you're sharing the experience with, but you're sort of, you're in an oppositional kind of setup. So I think the team battle, it's really fun to sort of bring in like someone on your side of the conflict and to sort of share it both from, someone on your side and to share it with the opposition. And it just kind of, I don't know, I think it really creates like an interesting, different kind of social experience of playing. So I'm all for the team battles. And it's just
Yeah,
also good,
I
like
agree.
since we're going to be getting together, it's just going to be a nice way to like get together as a group to start out. So
Yeah, I totally agree with the team battles. And also, we had talked about putting together just a few like 2,000 point lists that we can, mix and match. We can have like, a 4,000 point team battle, or we could have, a couple individual battles or whatever. But I'm trying to put together some lists that don't include a lot of the stuff that would be in my competitive tournament list and stuff that's just a little bit more like fun and wacky and off the beaten path. So that's kind of my hope too, is to have like really like a more like casual vibe or like weird armies that just you wouldn't play in the tournament. Um, so yeah, that's one of the things I'm trying to do too. I've just started kind of spitballing some lists and stuff.
yeah,
As an almost inside joke, your Falconers. You might play those in your non-competitive games because they're no
Exactly.
good anymore.
Yeah, they kind of got wrecked. I mean, they're still like they're not terrible, but they're really like their potential got so downgraded that I don't think they have a place in my competitive list. So, yeah, but they're coming with me. They'll make an appearance because I'm proud of that unit because they look really cool. They're fun.
Neat, neat.
I might want to give Lizardmen a spin because I've never used Lizardmen.
Uh, Not to spoil anything, but I have been in the lab getting some stuff painted, and I have basically everything anyways. But if I want to run anything unique, like multiple units of
Skinks,
plants or
old ones.
dinosaurs, yeah, cold ones. I want to run multiples of things. I've had to paint them, so we've got some lizardmen,
Mm.
which this is actually a perfect segue into the
Well, do you
to
have
the last.
the quad slan?
There was a joke list that was texted amongst the group of us that was basically, can you run 4 slams of different power levels and get them all in there with all these different items? And you can. I think it's ridiculous, and I won't be doing that. I like too many of the other dinosaurs, but two slams could be a thing.
But so you're
Um,
saying you don't have four.
I can let that cat out of the bag. This segues us so perfectly. I can let that cat out of the bag. There are
Okay.
no 4 slam lists coming down the pipe, but this has actually been a really interesting talking point between me and my friend, my group of guys on this side. We've talked about how much help do we want to give each other because we've been operating under the assumption that you two, because you have already traveled to Denmark together, that you two are not only sparring against each other and preparing for this, but you also probably have a pretty good idea what each of you are bringing for both power levels and you're confirming it. See, we got it live on tape,
It's true.
confirmed.
It's true.
So we are in the same boat. But we are so competitive that like I don't know. It's almost like the old Western draws. It's like who's going to be the first one with the white flag and the piece of cord. Like, hey, we never do this, but let's talk about our lists ahead of time and try to help each other so we can beat Jake and Casey.
Mhm.
So clearly, it sounds like you guys have communicated about it. You've confirmed as much.
Yeah, it's
We
all.
have not yet, so I might have to reconsider. Be like, hey guys, if we don't want to get smacked, we better like talk about it.
Yeah, you're free to collaborate with anyone you want.
Could also like pair up so like only one other person knows your list. Because that'll be the thing for me and Jake is like when we play each other, we know exactly what's in each other's list. But if you guys kind of pair up, then that might mitigate all of you knowing all of each other's lists.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because it is like I'm like it's like nice to go to the tournament like having practiced and stuff with my list, but also like only it's like only one of, 5 opponents will already have known it, which it's like not spoiling like getting to, have that fresh experience
Right.
for the most part.
I am my 1600 list. I will not. I want to staying right here close to the vest. I will not share that one. That's one we play. That's a power level we play a lot. I don't think anybody in our side of the group needs any help with like how to make a quality 1600 point list. I really want to surprise and gotcha some people. And there was some talk about like, hey, we're gonna have open lists or not. And I think some of the beauty of the competition and stuff is the closed list part of it, and is you know
Uncertainty.
the uncertainty, the gotchas. Like I think that's part that makes it really good. My 2500 point list, I'm more willing to collaborate because that is a power level that
Mm.
we don't play often. It's just a lot of points. And so like, hey, am I a moron for making my slam cost 620 points? Like, can somebody please like help me to make sure that I'm not making a critical mistake here? But yeah, so that's interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what lists we have. We can't really spoil and preview what we're doing because, like I said, we want to keep it as tight to the vest as we can. I am I mean, if they've listened to this far, my opponents won't. You two can, but my opponents won't. I'm playing an army in the 1600 that I've never played before. I've been painting behind the scenes, basically an entire army that nobody's ever seen. None of my friends will watch it this far. That's fine. None of you are here. None of you will watch it this far. Um,
This is
so
exciting.
yeah, I am excited about it. I don't know if it'll be any good. I don't know
You
if
never
I'll
know.
even be.
Casey and I might, switch on each other. One of us might backstab and, be just having a decoy army this whole time.
That's
Yeah.
true. Well, I mean, we could talk about how we think about putting together a competitive list because that's more like general rather than talking about the specific stuff that we're probably bringing.
I think no matter you know I think a hallmark of the Renaissance game has always been what are you doing about magic? And really and more often than not, the way it's set up, it's really it's almost better to lean in and be offensive with it than it is to try to scheme how you're going to be super defensive about it because they're almost the same points. But defense feels like reactionary and offensive magic and trying to play in the phase and be proactive in it seems like the more competitively sound thing to do. Gotta have a block in the middle that can win. Gotta have a block that's only 20 big that can go in a building and win. I think those are pretty standard check marks. You guys have anything else that you would agree, disagree, quibble?
I think you want to make sure your army isn't going to like run away. So having that solid center is pretty crucial. Solid in like terms of leadership, magic defense, being able to withstand some combat.
Yep. Yep, I
Yeah,
agree.
I think in terms of Magic, I think like the more you invest in Magic, the more of a gamble it is. Even defensive Magic, you could spend a bunch of points on defense and then you play against a corn opponent and 300 points of your army is kind of useless. Similarly, you could invest in a really offensive, high-level mage, and then someone has, pretty good magic defense, or you just don't. They roll really well on their dispels and stuff like that, and like all those points seem pretty ineffective. So one of the things that I've been toying with is like how to kind of maximize the consistency of your magic phase. And one of those things is by just like having multiple lower level mages that spam cheaper spells. It kind of creates this consistency and only like a moderate investment. I'm not saying that's exactly what I'm doing, but that's one of the things I've kind of been considering theorizing and testing is like multiple lower level mages, hence where that quad slan list came from.
Yeah, I think the prevalence of some of the bounce spells really helps. There's a lot of bounce spells that are really strong. I think you can really wear out somebody's magical defenses pretty quickly. Dispel cards are in short supply. The average amount of cards that the opposing player, the who gets the lesser of the two numbers, the average is going to be 4 to 3. If you roll a 7 on the dice, all of those things kind of just lead to if you've got like 3 or 4 extra bound spells, I think it's really, really hard to stop. But then again, they've got to be good bound spells in the right spot with the right timing, where it's all for naught. Um, Obviously, things like drain magic are still just really, really detrimental. I mean, I can see where high elves will still try to run like a level 2 drain magic, and like if they, and their theory will be, if I can just get drain off twice I'm going to shut it down for the first 2 turns now because now it's shut down for all of round 1 and all of round 2. That the high elf speed and shooting and all of its other pieces can deal with whatever it needs to deal with by top of round 3. And but yeah, lots of interesting ways that you can take the magic phase. I think that has to be like the number one consideration. And then, like Jake said, can you survive in the middle when it does get to combat? But yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
think like from a competitive standpoint, that's like really important is that you mitigate the chances that important units in your army are just going to run off the table from a errant panic check. And I think in a competitive list, I feel much more incentivized to bring a BSB where me and Jake are just playing a casual game over beers. I think I might bring a BSB, but I'm not like so focused on like getting that into my list. And depends what army you're playing too. But there's that. And then I think about like the different scenarios and objectives and terrain and like how important it is to have at least one unit that's really good in a building and just stuff like that. Um, have like this kind of all comers mindset to playing the game.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know, Barrett, like how your Jake and I, we have our meta, but how your group kind of thinks about those sorts of things, like all comers versus like a very like um list that's kind of focused on one sort of approach, like dominating quickly or dominating a certain phase.
Our meta, so You hit the nail on the head. You can do one of two things. It feels like when you sit down at the table. If you try to take an all-comer list, you're going to get beat probably by the person who slanted really hard into whatever side they went. So like for example, high elves shooting. Like if you didn't bring the 4-up banner of missile protection, um, and I mean you could just get shot and never get into combat. Like I mean, High Elves versus Lizardmen is one of the matchups I play a lot, and if I don't skew my list to a lot of speed, um, when I play into High Elves, I'm usually in trouble. I usually lose lists that I try to like take the center and hold because he can deteriorate my flanks, envelop, and shut the magic phase down, which we technically haven't had another bout. I have not played High Elves actually at all in 24. So we have not played with the updated Drain Magic rules because that was another thing too that High Elves could do. They could in sync, they could shut down the magic phase and then they were so fast with shooting and enveloping stuff that they could um they could really just take advantage of games like that. So there's really nothing I felt like I could do effectively. But I think in our meta, if you skew one way, you just kind of hope you rock paper scissors into the matchup the right way. It feels really random and dicey a little bit, but yeah, skew lists are just really hard to deal with. And Magic is already you know skewed to a power level that many would say is very strong. So if your list or your army or your faction can lean into that really hard, then it's a huge positive.
What's the updated Drain Magic?
So before Drain Magic from High Magic did not take away magic levels of anybody. Now moving forward, it takes away a magic level from everybody. So like what Kindle would do is would spam a level 1 high magic with a spell familiar, so he always got it, or it was like a level 2 or something, but he would spam this combo basically to where he could cast Drain Magic every single time, and you either got the first activation or he drained magic immediately. But now he's got to
Hmm.
roll just like the card. He's got to roll a 4-up
Oh,
on it every single time. And if he goes down to 0 magic levels, he can't cast anymore. He dies.
oh,
So
okay.
so it puts a timer. It puts a
Yeah, yeah.
timer of
Can't do it all
expiration.
battle long.
And before
I
he
didn't even
could.
notice that because we tried that out, before 2024, and then we haven't really done it since then.
It was
So,
the one. It was the one way that you could really shut down the magic phase pretty effectively.
yeah,
Um,
no, it definitely worked.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know about that change either. The other like list building consideration that I think Jake and I have both adopted is like trying to have something that's really hard to deal with and presents a big threat. Like that could be, a lord on a dragon, or it could be just like a certain, I guess I think of it as like the toys of the army that are like something kind of big and scary that is hard to deal with, and it just presents this threat. Um, that your army has to be ready for. And some armies are just going to have a hard time dealing with, like something really super tough, Wood Elves might have a hard time dealing with. So I think that's like another way to like make a good competitive list is have something that's going to be really tough for most armies to deal with. So it's like this kind of isometric thing, at least in some aspect, even if your whole list isn't so slanted.
right. Yeah, no, I can think of all the lists. I mean, and I always default to high elves because I think they're really strong. I mean, you can run 2 units of Illyrian Reavers with their ridiculous rule of fire, flee, and rally. I mean, just let's just make a whole brand new rule up, throwing together all the best rules that you possibly can, just throw them on and give it to a unit, and then you combine it with like a Dragon Prince on a dragon for 250 points or whatever. Ridiculous. Like what? Fly, breathe, breath attack. What are we doing here? But yeah, there are some toys. I like that the way you put that. Toys in the list that you can use. I'm thinking of my lizardmen right now. But fellas, this has been good. I'm excited. We're back. we're back. We're doing it. January 2 through 5, we will post videos, we'll post battle reports, we'll have standings, we will post standings on the 2 days. So we really hope that we have a little bit of a following in this small and cozy little gaming group that we have with the Renaissance group on Facebook. And it's been really good. Fellas, you got anything else before we sign out?
Nope, I don't think so.
Sweet. Guys,
Looking
it's been
forward to it.
great. It's been great catching up. Glad to be able to do this. Looking forward to the tournament. We are 1 month and 1 day away, starting right now. So, it is December 1st. Get your paint on, paint some minis, get ready to throw down come this January. Fellas, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks,
Yeah, thank
Barrett.
you.